Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to Korean Atlanta Mentorship here with another Velocity Banking video. And actually, this is a confession. Um, all the stuff that I said I did, like pay off a mortgage in 2 years and 9 months, I kind of made it up. And the reason I made it up is because I'm kind of broke right now. In fact, if you listen to the background while I'm talking in the video, you'll probably hear a smoke alarm chirp, meaning I got to replace the batteries. And I'm trying to replace the batteries right now. It's just I don't have enough ad revenue to be able to do that, right? And so that's why I'm trying to look, like I've done stuff that I've never really done, and hopefully one day, if you join the, YouTube channel memberships, 99 cent only, enough people will join, and then I'll be able to afford smoke alarm batteries. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with Velocity Banking and the scam that I probably made up, just so I can afford some smoke alarm batteries. What is Velocity Banking? It is a debt payoff strategy where you throw all of your money into debt. Okay. And by the way, if you don't know who I am some random dude on the internet who paid off a mortgage in 2 years and 9 months so that one day I may be able to afford smoke alarm batteries once the battery runs out. You can hear the chirp right now. Okay. Um, okay. So, yeah, this is all doctored screenshots, not even real. You could look at it and possibly drool if that's what that's the effect it has, like the Pavlovian response, right? Yeah, and all right, let's go ahead and get started. So the way that I like to present velocity banking is this, okay? If you make decent money, and when I say decent, it's kind of subjective, right? Because nowadays, $100,000 is kind of seen as not as cool as it used to be, right? Like $100,000 is like kind of very middle class, but most people don't even make $100,000. Okay. So if you see income of $6,000 a month in a W 2 job, that literally means you make almost pretty much about $100,000. So we're going to make a little bit more than 100,000. We have our expenses, and then we need to calculate our leftover savings. And what I like to do is I just like to present, look at all these debts, right? Credit cards, auto loan, mortgage. Look at all the debts, and then look at all the uh, g- general expenses we have to pay for every single month. Um, if you have only $50 left over in savings, right? $50. Do you need to make more money to get out of this hole? That's the way I present it. I don't say, hey guys or gals, look, it's velocity banking. Let me tell you why this is the best strategy ever. Everybody will pretty much say, yes, you need to make more money. Of course, like, well, $50 left over in savings. Look at this, all this debt, right? And I say, okay, well, what if we kind of, change the flow of money, right? So instead of thinking it's a good thing to save it, we're never going to save money when we pay off debt. Okay. We're never going to save it. So if I do zero, right, on the savings and then just use all my money to attack debt, a lot of people are kind of going to freak out. Okay. So if I go in here and then you take a look at the checking account, right, you see that money comes in and then it's zero and it just goes right out, right? It's a scary thought for people. You know what most people will be doing? If they had 20, 30 grand come into their checking account, they'd be like trying to hold on to as much as possible. That's literally what be doing, right? And if they have debt, they'll still try to hold on to as much as possible. And that's actually what the bank wants, believe it or not, is they want you to save money so that you get a small interest rate while they loan it out at like, I don't know, 6, 7%, right? You ever notice that, like, you hear about interest rates back in the 80s, how they were like, oh, savings accounts were like 12%. Yeah, but they were making loans at like a much higher interest rate than that 12. You see what I'm saying? So that's why, when they gave you zero, they were probably able to lend at three. Now, I don't know, I'm not a banking expert, but sometimes, it's me being a little bit cocky. I feel like I know more about the banks than their own products. Okay. I feel like I do because with a line of credit, it's kind of like a savings account. So that's what we're going to use. We're going to use something called a line of credit. And I have had conversations with maybe a few bankers, not too many, where every time I try to get a loan, for the most part, it has been unsuccessful because I refuse to save money. I refuse to save money, right? So they're like, "Well, if you don't have any money saved, where are you gonna get it?" And I was like, "Well, I have $739,000 in lines of credit." And just like, and they act like you can't do that. And I'm like, "What are you talking about? I just go to the bank's website, click a button, and then they'll dump money from a line of credit into a checking account." So if you don't know what a line of credit is, all it is a financial tool where you could borrow money, pay it back, and use it over and over again, right? Different paradigm of controlling the flow of money, different way of thinking, different philosophy. Okay. And this is my $373,500 home equity line of credit. $373,500 home equity line of credit. And I got more lines of credit, right? Including credit cards, because the credit cards is a form of line of credit. Swipe, pay back, use it over and over again. And if you take a look here, this is $739,000 in lines of credit. 739,000, right? That's me. Top 0.01%. Top 0.01%. Okay. 739,000. 739,000. Yeah, I repeat this 3 times. I learned this from The Simpsons, right? I played a clip from The Simpsons where Marge says, "This town's a part of us all, a part of us all, a part of us all." And then Bart's like, "Whoa, I remember that." And you know what's funny? That episode's probably like more than 30 years old, and I still remember it. So let me say it again: $739,040. $739,040 and $739,040. Yes, I have that this much lines of credit. And here's the secret that nobody wants to hear. Okay, I tell you the ultimate secret that got me here. A lot of people don't want to hear this. Banks don't lend money to people who need it. They don't lend money to people who need it. You know what? I tell this information to other people. You know what happens? They don't take it seriously. People who don't pay, they don't pay attention. I paid $2,000 to learn this, believe it or not. I was like, here's $2,000. And then what I got in return was banks don't lend money to people who need it. I'm like, what? And then later on, I realized it was one of those Karate Kid wax on off moments where, remember that scene in the Karate Kid where Daniel LaRusso was like, "Mr. Miyagi, you haven't taught me anything. You're just using me for my free labor." He's like, "No, no, no, no. Danielson, Danielson, wax on, wax off, wax on, wax off." Folks, if you ever tell me that you want to know how to get lines of credit, I'm just gonna tell you, banks don't lend money to people who need it. And then if you're like me, you probably have been confused for like 1 or 2 years, like, "What are you talking about?" And then like, "Oh, I get it. I get it." And then somehow you'll have over $739,000 in lines of credit. Probably next year, it'll be a million. And I'll be like, "Oh, whatever. I can't remember." Right? Rich people problems. If you have more than $1 million lines of credit and you don't even remember how much you have. All right. So what we're gonna do is use a line of credit as quote our main operating account. And so the difference between the average American here and the Velocity banker here is, where is your checking account in all this? Is it the final destination of your money, like the way your checking or savings are normally treated, or is it just the middleman? So if you take a look at the screenshot, you can just see, hey, this is the middleman. Okay, man in the middle. Isn't that a song by Alice in Chains? All right. All right. So middleman. Okay. So what we're going to do is move some of our debt into the line of credit and then increase our cash flow. And so we can certainly do that here. Okay. So there's 7 credit cards and all on a mortgage. And the easiest way to figure it out, which debts you move. And I didn't start using this until someone gave me 22 debts with $4 left over. I actually did this in a live stream, paid 99 cents. The way that until I saw that one, actually, maybe there's another one too. I think it was a 14 debt one. But either way, I'm used to dealing with 14 to 22 debts with $4 left over. Um, and then you just simply use a cash flow index as an easy way to determine the ranking order of the debts, right? So it's an easy formula: debt amount divided by the payment, and then it'll give you a number, right? So basically, it will be lowest number to highest number. And what does the low and high number mean? Well, low number means you get a lot of bang for your buck for paying off debt, and high number means you don't get that much bang for your buck, right? In order to get rid of this mortgage, I have to give someone 220,000 to only get $927 back in my life. Whereas I could pay the 30 grand credit card and I'll get 1050 back in my life. Okay? 1050. All right. So what we do is we move these low ranking debts into the line of credit. So I'm just going to do this 5, 8, 15, 27, 37, 10. And then what we're going to do is going to be 102,000. We're going to move it into the line. So originally this was at 0, but then what we're going to do is move that $102,000 of debt into the line. Okay. And then guess what happens when we move that debt into the line, right? So it's going to be 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, right? Oh, take a look at this. $50 of savings, right? To $3,363.21 in cash flow. And everybody you talked to said, whoa, you need to make more money, but look at this, income is the same. Whoa, income is the same. Okay. So yeah, income's the same, bro. Income's the same. I mean, this is why when I present it to people, most people never fight back, or they don't try to heckle me, because their mind said that this was literally not possible. You need to make more money. And I said, okay, we may know more. Like, we didn't make more money, but we went here, bam. And they clearly know they'd rather be here than here, right? And because most people don't like to be proven wrong, or nowadays, they just run away, right? They just run away, which is unfortunate about today's society. How people, if somebody showed me a way where it's like, whoa, I can be lazy and be a lot more effective, I wouldn't get like my ego offended. I'd be like, please show me more. But most people, I'm going to tell you something. They will take you out. Sometimes they'll take you out of this planet if you know, if you tell them that there could be better ways of doing things. And this has been true of society for a long time. You ever read the 48 Laws of Power? Like, who was it? Galileo or whatever? The guy who was it Copernicus? One of the those astronomers back in the day was like, in order to get funding or get support that the sun was the center of our Earth rather than the Earth, he had to flatter powerful families. Okay, anyways. So, final step is now we're going to dump all of our income into the line of credit, all of it, and then take our expenses out and then rinse and repeat over and over again. Okay, rinse and repeat over and over again. And so after every single month, the balance of the loan is going to go down by about 3,3363.21. So you see this cash flow number, and then what we're going to do is take the average daily balance, right? Multiply it by the interest rate, and then divide by 12. Okay, and then I'm going to copy and paste and then divide by 12. And right. And then what we're going to see here is in 34 months, right? 34 months, we paid off 102K of debt. All right. And whoopsie, 2K of, what did I do? I don't even know what I did. 34 months. Okay. All right. So now this is going to be 34 months. And then right here, right? So now we have this loan calculator right here that shows the current balances of the loans. And then you see right here, the low cash flow index. So we move this low cash flow index here. I'm going to go ahead and do this. And then this is going to be plus 7732.59, right? So that's the auto loan. So now this is 0, okay? And then let's go ahead and move this new cash flow number here. Okay, so minus 3672.47. And then you see that it gets paid off a little bit quicker, just 1 month quicker in this case. So that's 36 months when we increase that cash flow. And so 119K, and then this would be 34 plus 17. Okay, 51 months, okay? And then Okay, in the mortgage, 51 months, so I'm gonna do this right here. So we see that the current mortgage balance is a little bit less than 200,000. Now, why is it important to pay off the mortgage early? It's because if you let it go to the full term of 30 years, you're going to end up paying 50% interest, right? So 220,000 was the original balance and then 113,000 interest. Now, here's the other thing we have to know. Here's the special numbers, right? So 5.4 and then 9.4. Oopsie. 5.4 and 9.4. Why are these numbers significant? It's because 3% is about 50% interest for if over 30 years. 5.4% interest rate is about 100% interest, and then 9.4 interest rate is about 200% interest. So if I do 9.4, okay, and I go to the full term, right? You see that 220,000 is the original balance, and then 440 is the is the balance of what you call it. Is not the balance, the total interest paid, right? So you're essentially paying for 3 houses. If you ever get a 9.4% interest rate, you get 1 house for you and then 2 house to the bank for the bank. So you should pay it off eventually, right? And I know there are a lot of these days, a lot of people with interest rates in the 6 and the 7s, but back in the early 2020, a lot of 2s and 3s, right? In fact, my mortgage in the early 2021 or late 2021 was a 2.875% interest rate, right? So got to be a little bit careful, okay? So let me just do this. Now, when it comes to paying off the interest rate, I'm sorry, the mortgage, the most important thing is to really pay it off last, right? Your goal is to increase that cash flow as much as possible in the quickest way. And then what you either do two things, right? You could just either pay the loan directly, which you can do, or if you still want to use a line of credit, which hey, I've used lines of credit to pay off a mortgage. I've used even a 30% credit card to do it. And you might be saying, well, why would I use a 30% credit card? Well, maybe you want to wake up one day and the bank just magically increases your credit limit from 10,000 to 17,500 without even trying. Say what? Yeah, yeah. So we might want to do that to show because here's the thing about money and credit lines. If you don't use it, it's kind of like stale water, right? The bank wants to see you using it, and if you use the more of it you use, the more you get in money, right? Remember, credit is a money access multiplier. Okay, money access multiplier, right? So we can't just not use it, right? So if you want to use a credit card, you can. I'll even show you, right? So we have this velocity banking calculator here. And by the way, if you want to help me afford some smoke detector batteries, click the Google form link below. I am an independent contracting marketer for Natus, and if you pay me, I can finally buy some batteries. All right. So, why did I talk about this? Because I sell education, and if you want to learn more about, click the Google form link below. But what I'm saying is that there's this velocity banking calculator here, and then okay, okay, you see, I use something called chunking, which is you move a piece of a loan into a line of credit, and even at 30%, it's only 4.1 years. Okay. Now, if I move this into 8% line of credit, look at the difference 13 and 17. So it's like a 4 grand difference. Okay. Now, here, here's something I want to show you that a lot of people don't understand. If I move this whole loan into a line, look at this. I pay 40 grand. So the most expensive option actually would be moving the whole loan into the line. Isn't that crazy? Now, if I do a 30% credit card, look at that. It'll never pay off. It's like, what's going on? Does not compute. Never. So if anybody tells you that you should always move a loan into a line, um, I guess my response is I want some of what you're smoking, even though I don't smoke. Okay. So be aware of that. All right. So now let's go ahead and do this. And so 8% for 4 years. Okay. So now what we do is we just pay it off 0. And this is going to be 119 plus 220 and 339K. And then it's be 51 plus 220. And then it's 271K. All right. Wait, what did I screw up? Yeah, I think I screwed up. Wait, why do I have two amounts? So hold on. 119 plus 220. That's, yeah, 339K. And then it'll be 51 divided by 12 plus 4. So that'll be 8.25 years. All right. 8.25 years. Debt free. All right. Well, that's it for today, folks. Crane Lanta Mentorship here with another Velocity Banking video. Have a great day and happy Monday. See you on the next video.